Hey, Dennis O'Brien here with Susan Johnson and our wonderful producer, Matt Rupar,
All right, Matt.
taking good care of us here on Let's Talk About It. We're glad to be back, and we've got another great show tonight, right, Susan?
Yes, Dennis, we have a great show tonight.
Yeah,
But first, we have kind of a sad show because
it's
we have
bittersweet for sure. We're going to talk a little bit about our old friend and everybody's friend in Wyndham Willimantic, Dr. Shooks, Dr. Charles Shooks.
hmm
Charlie came to Wyndham around a little bit after we did. He came in here
yeah,
in around 1976, I believe.
yeah, that's what it said. But he had quite an interesting life before that, and
Oh,
becoming a
sure.
going to Fordham University, where our grandchild is right now.
Yes, he went to Fordham University in New
Yeah,
York, got his bachelor's degree there, and that's
and
where our.
he was inspired to become a doctor when he went to Fordham. He wasn't. I don't think he thought he was going to be a doctor until he went to Fordham. And actually, our grandchild wants to be a doctor. So we'll see what happens. Everybody goes through these changes when they go to the university, and they think you're going to do this. I thought I was going to be a physical therapist, and I became a lawyer.
I
So
didn't know what I wanted to be. I ended up deciding I was going to be a lawyer when I was in the U.S. Army. I wrote some books about lawyers, and I said, you know what? I can do that. And so
and you
I
did.
moved on. And you know what? Charlie and his career helping people
Yes,
all these years was very parallel to ours helping people in legal situations.
exactly.
Because we were in legal aid, I was there for 23 years. You were there for a long time, and
Well,
we had a lot of clients and patients in common,
yes.
an
Well,
awful lot of them. And I'll tell you, I heard nothing but great things about Charlie's
yeah.
capability as a doctor.
Yeah, me too. And as because somebody, I worked as somebody with Medicare and Medicaid issues, so I would hear a lot about the doctors in the area and what they were doing, and I actually read their reports and their orders. And Charlie Shooks was there, and people, the families were very grateful to his kindness to the patients, his good work for the people here in this region, and he's a little bit of everybody here in this area, especially the ones who he treated, and the families that had him for the doctor that he was. So he was great. He was really well respected and very much loved.
Yeah, the two doctors that come to mind that go back as far as is almost as far as I do as a lawyer here in town, a legal aid lawyer, were Charlie and Morton Glasser, and they were both people who doctors who, if you needed service, you'd get it from them. They would provide service. They would take care of people, and they took great care of people. In fact, Dr. Glasser was my physician for a while until he went and formed Generations.
That was an amazing thing that Dr. Glasser did. He was also my doctor. And I actually went to Eastern Connecticut State University, and his wife was my social work professor back in the day.
Yep, and so I know Charlie Shooks and Dr. Glasser stood out in my mind, going way back now. We've had a lot of great doctors here in town, but Charlie Shooks and Morton Glasser, they were internists, and they were they provided medical services to so many people, so many friends of ours, so many common people who we helped in common, and he's such a big loss losing Charlie at this time. I mean, he was not he was too young to go, and it's so sad, and I really miss him. Charlie and I became pretty good friends in terms of we had a mutual love for softball and baseball. And we were talking to Wayne. We had breakfast with Wayne Norman last week, and we talked about Charlie. And Wayne had so many nice things to say about Dr. Charlie Shooks. Charlie Shooks was a ball player. He played with various number of softball teams in the Willimantic Men's Athletic Club, as I did, and as Wayne did. And I got to know him even better through that. And Wayne also reminded me that he was also an umpire.
Yes, he was umpire, and he took good care of the kids because he was doing work like that for the Little League around here.
That's right. That I didn't know. I missed him. I've been with the Little League since, oh God, 1983,
Yeah.
and I just kind of left a year or two ago because of my arthritis in my knees. It made it harder for me to coach. But I didn't know that Charlie had coached Little League when his kids played Little League ball, and you know what? I would have, I was not surprised to learn that because he loved the game, and we used to talk all the time about the sport of baseball. I'll talk a little bit more about that later.
I bet you I did used to talk about a little bit about
Oh, a
baseball.
lot.
Yeah. And he did the boys little league, and you actually helped create the girls little league, and so that was really great because it helped our daughter play sports, and he did the coaching for his sons, and it's a great thing to see the parents participating in little league, getting their children socialized in the game because it is a great socialization experience. It's great for all different types of skills. Baseball is.
Well, it's a great way to learn how to bounce back from what some people might call failure, because baseball and softball are games in which you fail more often than you succeed, and you don't always win either. And you learn through that game that there's always another time at bat. There's always another pitch. There's always another game, and so you learn to accept what some people might call failure. I don't call it failure. I call it striving and not gaining your goal. But you know what? It teaches you to continue to go after your goals and to succeed. And Charlie knew that, and he lived his life that way. I mean, he was just a real pillar of the community.
And that whole idea of working together in a team creates the idea, it helps you develop when you get older and you need to go to work, that you're working in a team situation again. And that, I think, is something that sports really teaches people. It teaches them civility, control, how to do physical exercise, how to do the math when you're adding up your scores. And, all those things. It's just a whole lot of stuff that you learn from playing team sports.
Yeah, I learned a lot about math from keeping score of baseball games when I was very young. I saw my first Major League Baseball game on June 3rd, 1951, at the Polo Grounds in New York City. And speaking of the Polo Grounds, I got to mention that Dr. Schooks was an incredibly big fan of the San Francisco Giants. Of course, the older folks in the crowd know that the San Francisco Giants originated in New York City. They were the New York Giants. He used to call them the New York Baseball Giants, and the football Giants were called the New York Football Giants. But the New York Giants originated in New York City, and it's possible that I don't think they were still there when Charlie was at Fordham, but they might have been just about leaving because they left in 1957. Right. And I was 14 years old. It really disappointed me because my dad used to take me down to the Polo Grounds in New York to watch whenever the Cardinals were there. Right. We would see the Cardinal. My dad was a Cardinal fan. He passed away when I was only 17. He was 50, and I never knew why he was a Cardinals fan. People ask me, "Why are you a Cardinals fan? Living in Connecticut all your life?" I said, "Well, I inherited it from my dad," and that I never got to ask him why, but I assume it's because in the 30s and 40s, they were one of the most renowned and successful teams in Major League Baseball. They were the westernmost team in St. Louis, and that is only about 1/3 of the way across the country. So it was not that far west. And then, of course, in 1957, the Giants and the Dodgers from Brooklyn moved to California.
Yeah.
And the rest is history. But
people were quite upset by that, by the way. When you talk to people who live in New York City and in that little area there, which was actually a big, densely populated area, people really who were Dodgers fans or Giants fans really didn't like the fact that they up and left.
Not at all, but soon they were those two teams in the National League were replaced by the Mets, and the Mets are doing very well now, and all those Mets fans out there, and I know a lot of them, are very happy that the Mets are going to the NLCS, National League Championship Series, and I can still remember how happy Dr. Schooks was in 2010, 2012, and 2014, when in 3 seasons out of 6 years, the San Francisco Giants, formerly the New York Giants, won the World Series 3 times in that period. That was unbelievable in the modern age when there are 30 teams or more than 30 teams. And Charlie was like beside himself, delighted. And a lot of those players, Susan, got their start in well, not their start maybe, but they played minor league baseball in Connecticut with the Norwich Navigators. I believe it was Norwich Navigators. And one in particular was Madison Bumgarner, who was pitched for all three of those teams.
Wow.
And there was a great story that I had about Madison Bumgarner that I told Charlie in recent years that I'm going to repeat later on. I'm not going to tell it right now, but I'm going to save it in case we have time. It's a really great story. Madison
I don't think
Bumgarner.
we do have time. I think that we're going to, so why don't you, if you're going to say it now, why don't you, and I have a couple more things to say about Charlie, and then we're going to have to go to a
Well, I want to mention one thing. I mean, Charlie was obviously a huge fan of the Say Hey Kid, Willie Mays. Willie Mays was. I saw Willie Mays play when he came up just as a rookie in 1951, and he just passed away very recently.
Yeah.
Probably the greatest all-around ball player who ever lived. Probably the greatest, Willie Mays. And Charlie was an enormous fan of Willie Mays. Maybe in New York, but certainly when he played for the San Francisco Giants. I'm trying to think if Willie Mays ever played on a World Championship team.
Okay, well, why don't we go?
I don't recall that.
Okay, well, so I just want to say how everybody in town honors and misses Dr. Shooks. And I also want to say that in lieu of flowers, you can consider making a donation to the Connecticut chapter of the Amyotrophic Lateral Sclerosis Society, which is what Dr. Shooks passed away with. And you can visit that website, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. And also you can look at the obituary at the Bacon Funeral Home. The website will be updated at the Bacon Funeral Home, and you can send information and thoughts to the family at the Bacon at Bacon www.baconfh.com, and those would be the two things that I'd like to make sure people actually know about, so that they'll be able to connect with the family.
I have an update. I saw the latest update on the obituary on the Bacon Funeral Home website today, and that's why I know that this evening, you know about this evening, as we speak, it started at 5 o'clock, okay, but it goes till 9 o'clock. It's a celebration of the life of Dr. Charles Adrian Shooks tonight at the Elks Club. Tonight, and that's Friday, October 11th, right now. We're live on this show with Matt Rupar and Susan Johnson, and that is ongoing right now. It started at 5 p.m. It's going till 9 p.m. As soon as the show is over, Susan and I will be heading over there to pay homage to our good friend and one of the greatest all-time friends of Willimantic and Wyndham, Dr. Charles Shooks.
Exactly.
And so that is tonight from 5 to 9 p.m. We're going to remind you of that before we get off the air.
Okay, we'll do that. All right, we're going to break now, and our wonderful sponsors, the Gates and all the other ones, thank you so much for helping us out. Welcome back, everyone. This is Susan Johnson. I'm here with my co-host, Dennis O'Brien, and we have a wonderful guest for you now, Phoebe Godfrey, who is a professor at the University of Connecticut in sociology and environmental sciences. And she has a new book, Understanding Just Sustainabilities from Within, a case study of shared use commercial kitchen in Connecticut. And let me just say, she's the one who started Click a few years back. And I thought, how will that ever happen? And she did it with a whole bunch of other people. And she was able to provide great leadership. And we have the only community licensed kitchen in the state of Connecticut, and it's because of Phoebe Godfrey's great vision and her hard work with so many people in this area, making sure that agriculture is going to be something that we're able to keep going here, because one of the things I learned when I became the state rep is that we only have 3 days of food available, and then if there's a supply chain problem, we're in trouble. So we've got to keep those farms going. Welcome to the show, Phoebe.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thanks for having me. I'm sure your audience are like, her again, but
Nah.
but
You haven't been on that often, Phoebe.
Okay, all right. Well, it was like 6 months ago
It may have been a
for the
dream or
art
something.
show. for
That
the-
was great.
yeah,
You're probably
yeah.
dreaming about
Multi-talented,
being on
yes.
the show.
Multi-talented.
Everybody wants to be here. so.
Multi-talented. Yes, of course. I'm very happy to be here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great having you. So yeah, tell us about the book and what I guess maybe Click maybe was part of the inspiration for the book.
So, absolutely. It's the story of how we created the commercially licensed kitchen. And a lot of times for academics and researchers and sociologists, you go and study other people who are doing activism, creating community kitchens or nonprofits or social justice. And, you're the researcher and you interview people and you do an ethnography and then you go back to your office and you write it up and you publish your book and then you go on to the next topic. I wanted to do it differently. I wanted to see if I could take some of the ideas that I was using in my classes and put them into practice and thereby kind of show my students that you can make a difference and in a way not be a hypocrite, not be like, the food system is totally messed up, so go fix it, kids. Instead it's like, let me see what I can do and what my wife and I can do or what we can do as a community. And then when it's up and running and it seemed like it was a good time for me to step away, then write a book and then take the time to reflect and ask myself, what does it mean from a sociological perspective? And that's what the book is. It uses two theoretical lenses. One is just sustainabilities, which is the view that sustainability cannot be sustainability if there isn't equity, if we don't address racial injustice, gender injustice, social class injustice. And then the other lens is a theory called intersectionality, which invites us to look at people's identities from all of the parts that make them up. So the intersection of race, class, gender. And I use those two lenses to ask, is Click, which you just told the audience about, commercially licensed cooperative kitchen, is Click an example of just sustainabilities? And if so, how so, and how do you measure? And if not, how not, and how do you measure? Right? Because if you were to say, oh, Phoebe, you're a nice person, and then Dennis was to ask, well, what do you mean, Susan? How do you measure that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, just because she was nice yesterday, does it mean she's nice always? And if I make one mean comment, does that mean I'm no longer nice, or I'm partly nice, or I'm sometimes nice? And so when we use the word justice, or social justice, or food justice, or it's kind of like, well, how do you actually measure that?
Mm-hmm.
Right? How do you know?
Definitions are an important part of practicing law.
Absolutely.
You have to have definitions, and one of the most interesting courses I ever took, and I won't be long,
No, go ahead.
was with a guy named Calvin Rollins at UConn in 1969. He's passed away. Wonderful guy. Actually did some poverty work here as a volunteer in Willimantic with another a professor from UConn whose name is Len Krimmerman, who is, I think, still
I
up
know
there.
Len.
Yeah. Well, ask him about Calvin Rollins.
Okay.
Calvin Rollins is one of my heroes. I mean, I had never taken a philosophy course, and I was a senior. I just wanted to take this course in philosophy of language. Okay, and I took it from Rollins, and Rollins was a disciple and an assistant to a guy named Ludwig Wittgenstein, who is considered to be, by many, the most important philosopher of the 20th century, even above Russell, his teacher. So it was amazing. It was all about language and words and how important that stuff is. And I think, based on what you just said, you would find Wittgenstein fascinating,
Yeah.
if not difficult.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But Rollins was able to teach me, and I got an A. And I never took a philosophy course in my life before that.
Excellent.
But it was hard. It was like when I first took zoology. That was tough for me too, because I'm a words and letters type person.
Yeah, me too. So
Okay.
yeah, so that's the idea of the book, setting theoretical frames, and it's written in an approachable way for people. I wanted it to be used by others if they wanted to create a kitchen. The idea of from within is from a sociologist called Dorothy Smith, who said the only way of understanding a socially constructed world is by being a part of it. Right. And so as the former sort of co-founder and board president of Click, it's like I was well situated to evaluate, but also to tell the story obviously in a biased way because it's my story, but the book also has a lot of input from other people and other sources.
Let me just go back to when you first got you made the decision to try and create Click. What inspired you to do that?
So it came out of the Willimantic Food Co-op. I was the board president there, and there was a recognition that our local farmers, like you were saying, we don't have a lot of food security in the area. Our local farmers needed a way to add value to their products. So if you go to a farmer's market, which hopefully listeners you do, if it rains and the farmers don't sell all their tomatoes, day one, they may be okay. Day two, then you put them in the fridge. Day three, what do you do with them? Day four, day five, right? And so farmers can lose a lot of their crop because they don't have a way to process it. And we call that adding value. And so part of the kitchen's idea was farmers need a place to add value, a place to reduce food waste, and Click has been working for years on getting a more substantial composting. If you've ever been to Third Thursday, you've probably seen the composting efforts that are being made on the part of members at Click and the community. And so those were the sort of motivating things, but then there was another piece because our original funding came from Access Agency. So it was how can you look at food security, helping farmers, reducing food waste, and addressing low-income people who need job training. How can you address poverty? How can you help have job development? And it seemed like, if we create a kitchen where you could job train people who are helping process local food, help people incubate businesses, and Click is getting up to its 10th anniversary next year. Since we opened the doors last year, there was over $2 million in state and federal funds.
Yes.
They were expanding their processing ability, and so it's working. And that was also fun with writing a book. It wasn't I left Click and then it collapsed, but I wrote a book and still got credit for it. Right? It was like I left, and Lee Duffy has been the executive director for many years now and has just further helped grow it in her way. And so the book is kind of part of that growth rather than it's the last story of something that collapsed.
I'm so excited because one of the things that I'm always so proud of is that we have so many different unusual things here in the Windham area, in the town of Windham, and Click is one of them.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things that no other town has been able to put together yet. There are things going on now, and I'm hoping that we're going to be able to do something that I see as the next step for Windham and the state, and that is to do the organic waste recycling, because we really need to take that. It will save everybody money, but you'll be able to take, if I get my little machine in my house for my organic waste, I can just take it and put it in my gardens, and I don't have to buy any fertilizer, and it will be a great way to do the right thing for the environment and the plants. And there are a number of farms now that are getting organic waste as well. So I know that Click has been doing a lot of good things in that area.
Yeah, composting is like one of the best things you can do for the environment, because when you compost food waste, you are actually creating a carbon sponge. And when you throw it in the garbage, you're creating a little methane emitter. So the more you throw away food, the more negative impact you're having. The more you compost, the more positive impact. And it's such a simple nature solution, right? We don't have to invent it. Rotting is written into the sort of DNA of all of us.
Yeah.
The ecosystem.
The ecosystem. And my wife and I compost everything, and our trash can is like half the size of most people's.
Yes.
Because everything that is organic goes into our compost heap and goes on our garden the next year. And it's this beautiful cycle, and it should be across the state.
It should be. Everybody should be getting into that. We used to do it. I remember when I was a very little girl, we had that bucket, and the person some farmer would come by and pick up the bucket of organic waste, and they would, I don't know how they processed it back in the day.
Well, and
but
a lot
that
of them, they fed it to chickens, they fed it to pigs. I mean, the idea that food gets wasted, is the sign of everything that is wrong with how we have this linear system, right?
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
So the book, I'm giving a talk.
Yeah.
Let's right. That's
Oh,
sort of
great.
why I'm
Okay,
on the
when
show.
are you
Yeah,
doing
let's
that?
get there.
Yeah, let's get there. So
Okay,
next
all right.
next Thursday
All right.
at Click 41 Club Road in Wyndham, I'm giving a talk on my book. It starts at 4:30. There's a labyrinth walk. If listeners have ever heard of Labyrinth, Click has a little labyrinth in the back by the Natchog River, kind of looking. The Natchog River is down on the slope, but we have a little labyrinth, and we're inviting people to come. 4:30, come for a walk, and then talk starts at 5. I'll talk for about a half hour. Then there'll be discussion, a tour of Click. If you've never been to Click, it's a great place to go and see what's happening, see our murals, see our kitchen, meet some of the businesses that are incubated there. There'll be some food by our very own Maria de Los Angeles, who's one of our greatest success stories as a producer in Click. And then, again, meet and greet, hang out, and go on your way. So it would be great to see you, listeners, and see both of you there if you're able to make it.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I
and
just put
I'll
it on
be
my
s-
calendar.
I'll be signing books if anybody
Excellent.
wants my signature.
Yes.
I bought a bunch, and for each book I sell, I'm making a small donation to Click.
So that will be a
Excellent.
Thursday.
That'll be next Thursday,
Okay.
the 17th.
So when we go through your book, just to give people a little bit of a hint about what you're going to be talking about next Thursday at 4 o'clock at Click, and the
Yeah.
address of Click is
41 Club Road. So the Labyrinth Walk is at 4:30. The talk starts at around 5. Or we may do the tour first. It depends on how
Yeah.
where Lee's at. But tour, then talk, then snacks, and kind of meet and greet.
yeah, and this and I think that I did a environmental sustainable before session in last February, and just having it with the sustainability group at Eastern Connecticut State University.
Nice.
And we had a discussion about that from all different angles in terms of Yukon, Eastern, the town, the state. And so in this is focused on the kitchen. So tell us a little bit about what some of the things that you focus on in the book.
So the introduction is just sort of the idea that Click was a good idea. That every time we told people, "Hey, we're making kit," "Oh, what a great idea! Oh, what a great idea!" Like, who's going to do it? And how often we have great ideas, but they don't get followed through on.
Yeah, I've been involved in projects where I've charged up that hill and turned around, looked behind me, there was nobody there.
Yeah,
That happens.
Yeah, so
Sometimes it doesn't, but it
what
does.
does it take for
Yeah.
a community to take a good idea
Yep.
and put it into practice?
Yeah.
Just a little shout out. The foreword is by Mark Winnie, who established the Hartford food system. I don't know if he's very well known in the food movement, and he now lives in Santa Fe, and it's continued
Nice
to
place.
write about the food movement. Then I situate some of the theories, so the just sustainability theory, the theory of intersectionality. So if you are sort of curious about sociological theories, I map those out, and then I start to kind of situate Click in the two types of food movements. One is called the alternative food movement, which simply put is more the white middle class, liberal. I'm going to go to the farmer's market and buy local food. Very nice, nothing necessarily wrong with that. But then there's the food justice movement, which looks at the entire food system and talks about, workers' rights and immigrant rights and the food access and health and sort of inequality in the food system and racism in the food system. And so, again, the question of, what role is Click straddling both the alternative food movement and trying to be part of the food justice movement, trying to empower smaller producers, empower smaller farmers, help women's businesses, help women immigrant businesses, and really challenge the hierarchies of our food system in more sustainable ways.
Absolutely. And some of the things that we look at, we think, how did this happen where we have the producers of potato chips getting a higher subsidy than somebody who's out there growing the food in
exactly.
agriculture. So in terms of getting a place like Click supporting local farmers, that's the kind of thing that we want to give the subsidies to. And the potato chip manufacturers, sure, they're fun at a party maybe, but overall, it's not going to. It's not the kind of food that's going to make a little one healthy. When you take a look at that, and how the big agribusinesses have kind of taken over so much of the access to food, that we're kind of circling back now to make sure that the smaller farmers are given the kind of support that big agriculture is given, and taking a look at what big agriculture does with respect to genetically modified foods, how that impacts the type of fertilizers and types of things that they use to kill insects. All these things have a big impact on the environment and how things are, what people are eating and what's in their food, and how we process that food. And exactly.
Absolutely.
To go into the health thing.
Yeah, no, and so when Click first opened, we also focused on nutrition education, cooking classes, working with kids. That piece has been put on hold because Click is expanding its farmer processing part. The long-term goal is to reintroduce the nutrition and education part and possibly do it somewhere on Main Street. That would be the sort of long-term fantasy, is to have that piece closer to town, so it's more accessible to young people or to people who don't have cars necessarily, and have the Click part, the original Knights of Columbus former building, be the food hub that really allows for the production of food from our small and local farmers. So keep your eye out for the development of Click, and Click has been so supported by the Connecticut Department of Ag, by the Austin Foundation, by the Community Foundation of Connecticut, the Women and Girls Fund, so many local organizations and federal organizations, including the FDA, have made Click possible, and the community, like yourself, and politicians, and Joe Courtney. And,
Joe Courtney, for sure, yeah.
Definitely.
Me and Senator Flexer worked hard to make sure you got a pretty sizable grant there.
Yeah, no, and so, and that's another part of my book, that, none of this would have been possible without the community coming together, and when communities come together with a good idea, so much can be accomplished.
That's right, and that is one of the things I have to just say. When you were having the little the children come and cook, I brought my grandchildren to.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
To be because they love to cook, and so they were thrilled to go to Click and spend their week in vacation in February when you're cooking at Click. So it was great for Grammy to bring them too. I really enjoyed that. Yeah.
And more kids aren't learning how to cook or don't know how to identify plants. I had I teach a sociology of food class, which is another piece of this whole project that I've been teaching on food for at least 20 years. And I had my students go foraging on UConn campus and finding acorns,
nice.
and finding things that they could eat, sorrel and blueberry bushes and things like that.
Blueberries.
So, yeah.
My grandma used to have hundreds of acres of blueberry fields.
Oh, nice.
So anyway, we're down to our last 2 minutes. Tell us again where this is going to take place, when, and a little bit about the book.
Okay, so I will be giving a talk on my book next Thursday, October 17th at Click, starting at 4:30 with a labyrinth walk, and then there'll be a tour, there'll be a talk, and then there'll be food by Maria de Los Angeles, and there'll be a meet and greet going up to 6:30. And Click is located at 41 Club Road, and you can't miss it. It's got 2 beautiful murals, plenty of parking, easily accessible, and everybody's welcome. You don't have to know me. Anybody who's interested in learning more about Click or about the book, and I will be selling some books and signing them if you so wish my signature on it.
Oh, absolutely. Phoebe
yeah.
Godfrey, Understanding Just Sustainabilities from Within, and that's all about Click.
Hey, I'll be there. You sold me on coming, and it's not my usual, where I go most of the time. But I've been to Cook before,
Yes.
but I don't cook, and I don't.
That's okay. You don't have to
I do a
cook.
lot of stuff. I'm a busy guy.
Busy
You don't
guys
have to
can
defend
cook.
yourself.
Now I understand. Well, I don't want to waste time on the air.
30 seconds.
30 seconds. Anyway, we're going. Susan and I are going over to the memorial, the celebration of life for Dr. Shooks. Dr. Shooks passed away of ALS recently. Something in common. He was a baseball fan. He and the two greatest people I've ever known that have unfortunately passed away from ALS were Lou Gehrig and Dr. Shooks. So we're going to go over to the memorial right after the show, and we'll be there. It goes till 9:00 at the Elks tonight. Susan and I will be there. And thank you so much,
Yeah.
Phoebe.
Thank
Great to
you
have
both
you on the
for
show.
having me.
Yeah,
Great to
we'd
have
love
you.
to have you.
Look
Thank
forward
you
to
for doing
seeing you
all
on
this work.
Thursday.
You're going to
Okay.
help the
Yeah.
society move forward. Thank you.
Thank
Phoebe
you.
Godfrey.
Sounds very
Yeah.
good. Sounds very good. Okay. Thank you so much. We'll be back next week with another great show, great guest.